What do you think about when you hear that there's a heat wave coming? Are you thinking about temperatures? You're thinking about how hot it's going to get? Are you thinking about jumping into the pool and cooling off and doing that more often, at least in the coming days? Do you think about it's going to be so hot you could fry an egg on the pavement? Or my popsicle's going to melt before I get a chance to eat it? Really, just what are you thinking about when you hear the term heat wave? You're probably not thinking about, oh, let's go camping. But if you've already got it booked, what are you going to do? You just might as well go. Under the shade and cover of the trees, you might be able to ward off some of that heat. Well, let's find out. In this video, I'm going to share 15 important elements that are necessary when there is a heat wave and you're camping. You can't always determine the weather, but if you've got a heat wave and you're camping, here's some things that you want to keep in mind. Number one is you want to pick a campsite that has lots of trees around. We saw a lot of campsites where we were that were completely in the open, like just a meadow with no trees around for shade. So those sites would be really, really hot. Our original site, booked 2 months in advance, was wide open and not enough trees to offer sufficient shade. So we were able to change our site and get more shade and also closer to the beach. So, if possible, when you arrive, if your site doesn't offer enough shade, ask to change it. Now, I know these days a lot of the provincial parks, for example, are really booked up, and that may not be possible. So, you might have to think of different creative ways to create more shade where you're at. Our site also had a lot of rocks and part of it sloped, so it was very tricky as to where we were going to put the tent. So we did find a level enough area, and we cleaned off a lot of the debris, like little um, sticks and things like that. There were some rocks that actually poked up through the ground, one of which I was trying to hit down with a hammer, but it didn't work. We found that some of these rocks actually worked their way through some of the grass mats that we had set out. So I didn't double check the tent when we took it down, but hopefully no rocks made it through the tarp and then the tent bottom. But if it did, we'll find the hole, and we have a special goop stuff that we use to seal any holes that may occur. We have a bit of a priority as to what items we pull out of the vehicle first, and one of that is our chairs. We set them up so that, especially during this heat wave, so that we could relax between activities. There's a lot of work to setting up a tent and the accessories. So we decided to pace ourselves. We decided that when we got too warm, we'd take a break, relax, cool down, use a hand fan to try to cool down, drink water, and then when we felt cool enough, we would get back to setting up. So setting up doesn't have to be a marathon. It can be just part of the whole process, the adventure, the enjoyment. It's amazing what you learn about one another when you're setting up a tent, especially during a heat wave. Remember, fun is the focus. And every once in a while, we had to pull ourselves back and like, wait a minute, what are we doing here? Why are we doing this? Because we like the adventure. We like the fun of it. Right. Okay. Obviously, the number one rule is you have to drink plenty of water. You can sip it throughout the day as you're working on your activities. So you have to remember to hydrate. Another thing you can do is use a cooling cloth. So it's a cloth that you would soak with water and wear it around your neck. I have a small neck towel I made. It's 100% cotton. I wet it down and I wear it around my neck. And it also proves to be handy when your brow is sweating and sweat is going down your eyes and you're working away. So you get to take the cloth and just dampen your forehead. I was sweating a lot, moving around in the heat, and I was able to wipe my face and my brow with the ends of my cotton neck scarf. So I have a micro towel that's designed for this purpose. But the problem with the micro towel was that it's hard on the skin, not quite as soft and absorbent as the cotton towel that I made. So there are a lot of cooling towels available on the market. I like to avoid any ones that are synthetic because they're not quite as absorbent as you would like. So you need a cloth that's going to hold cool water, not dry too quickly, and that's soft on the skin. For seniors 70 and up, dehydration can happen more quickly and easily, especially during a heat wave. So it can happen more quickly than they or anyone around them realizes. As we age, the body's sense of thirst weakens. I didn't know that. Seniors often don't feel thirsty even when they are already starting to dehydrate. So this means that there's a reduced thirst response. So just get into the habit of sipping some water every now and again. There was no rain in the forecast, and so there was no need for us to put the rain fly on top of the tent. Had we done that, it would have made the tent really hot because that rain fly would have limited ventilation and also kept heat inside. And we didn't want that for reasons like we had our fridge in there. We didn't want it to overrun or just run too long trying to keep things cold. We didn't want the motor to burn out. And also, we wanted more comfortable sleeping. So we used fans to help ventilate. And as much as possible, we were in the shade or we created shade. If you're watching this and you've got this far, you might be thinking, finally, they got the tent up. Finally, we did. And I think it took maybe about 20 minutes by the time we gathered certain items. And we also did have a time where we sat down and cooled down. We had a cool drink and then we went back to work. So get the tent up, get the pegs on, get the legs on. Sometimes we had problems communicating with each other. I'd say pegs, and Stanley would think of the pegs going into the ground, and I meant the pegs like the legs on the side of the tent. So sometimes I think maybe heat makes the brain and the tongue work differently. But we managed to communicate and coordinate our efforts and get this done.
Then on the other side, put the sleeve over.
Okay, this one here's come out of the hole.
Oh.
Is that the way it's supposed to be with the Velcro sitting out like that?
No. That's fine, Stanley. That's fine.
Oh.
Can you go on the other side now
I thought
and
it
get the sleeve onto the car? Now you might have to move it closer. The black part goes underneath the bumper. Reach down. Put under the bumper.
Yeah.
And the thing goes on the wheel.
Not over far enough?
I don't know. Put your thing on the wheel. Yes, have to start hammering them in. See the little black pads.
I will. Where are they?
Tent bin.
Oh, what about?
We decided to break our work into manageable chunks. We weren't completely set up, but we had the tent up. And so we decided, since it was a little bit overcast, we decided to take a hike and then finish up our setup later on. And I'm glad we did that because it was a cooler part of the day. The sun was not baking down on us. On the second day, there was full sun shining and it was just way too hot for any kind of activity other than going down to the beach and cooling off in the water.
This is the day that
So,
Teddy Bears
some of the paths that we found at this particular provincial park were blocked off. They said they were prohibited.
Well, you can
And
see a
yet,
lot of
I just said to
ice
myself,
storm
I'm going to
damage.
take my chance.
See all
They're
those
putting their
branches
sign
down?
up, and they're saying prohibited because
Here comes
that's what they
a
want to
flock of
do
birds.
in case, it covers their backside. People are going to go down the path and maybe get into trouble, and they'll say, well, we told you it was prohibited. So it's not like they were going to fine us for doing it. But part of the reason for that was they hadn't fully cleared a lot of the paths from left over from the ice storm that we'd had months earlier. So, but we were able to walk through. Really, there was just a couple of trees across the path that we navigated around, and it definitely shortened the walk from our campsite to the beach. And it was enjoyable. And lots of trees, lots of shade. For me, one of the funny things that happens with Stanley is that he's always concerned about what direction we're going. Will we be able to find our way back or not? And I keep reminding him that I have a very good sense of direction. I do. For some reason, I've never got lost. He did once when he was working in the bush when he was a kid, cutting down trees, but I've never got lost. I just always seem to know which direction to go into. And in a pinch, you could put a stick in the ground if the sun is shining and find out where north is, even the time of day it is, by where the shadow falls, if you just put a stick in the ground and draw a circle around it. And I've done that since I was a kid. I used to do it because I didn't wear a watch and I wanted to know what time of day it was so that I could remember to get home in time for supper. So, good sense of direction. And I keep saying to Stanley, trust me, the older you get, the more you're going to have to lean on me and trust me for certain things. And so we never got lost. We just enjoyed our walk down the prohibited path.
I wonder how many people saw the sign prohibited and went anyways. More trees down. Poor things.
There's another parking lot. Oh, I know where that was now.
Yeah.
Didn't we?
We saw this before, yeah.
We passed it. We went on straight down.
So that wasn't a bad path.
Okay. Well, wait a minute now.
Then we go across the road.
We weren't over that one.
We came through that one before. Then we went down the street.
Shouldn't we go up there and then turn left and in? Huh?
No, this brings us to our road. Look, more trees down.
Oh, you know where that was right there?
I know.
That's where the main drag cuts across it.
I know. Remember, I have a good sense of direction. Follow me, boys. Follow me, boys, follow me. Pick your feet up left and right.
Well, that's those
Da,
stones.
da, 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 da.
Those big stones for walking on.
Yep.
That'd be quite to be sore on bare feet.
So back at camp, here is our final setup with the sleeping arrangements inside the Honda and our little kitchen setup. We have a water jug and a USB dispenser. And Stanley had asked me to bring along the extra bedding in case he wanted to sleep in the tent area, which proved to be a good idea because the second night he slept down on the tent area. And I tried to cool myself with a fan.
Get up, you lazy bones.
Hey,
Get up, you lazy bones. Ready for the day?
hey,
Ready for the day?
ready for the day?
Yeah.
Well, almost to get that muffin in me.
Muffins, coffee. You had your banana. I like that it's like an inside porch when you want it to be. Listening to the birds, Merlin described it or said that there was a rose-breasted grosbeak. Imagine that. I've never seen one. Have you?
You've never seen a rose-breasted grosbeak?
No, never.
Of course I've seen them. They used
Yeah.
to come to Zephyr. And like I said, in the evening they'd park on the top of a tree and sing. And it was beautiful.
Hmm.
But they're rare. They don't have a long season. They disappear early on into the forest and trees. And they're like a Baltimore Oriole. You get a little few weeks of them and then they're gone.
That's why you hardly ever see them.
Where they'd go exactly, I don't know. But I enjoyed them for the
Why do they call them a grosbeak?
growth. Well, because the beak is stubby.
Hmm.
Instead of being like more normal pointed beak, like a robin has a beak that helps pluck worms out of the ground.
Right.
But a grosbeak doesn't have that.
It must eat bugs then.
Probably feeds on bugs.
How do you know this stuff? About the grosbeaks and all that and the beak? How do you know that?
How do I know it?
Yeah.
I've seen them in real life, and I compared them to the bird books.
Oh, so it's observation.
Yeah,
But maybe you'd read it in bird books or something.
but they have to. They have to be close by. Like a place like this here, it's now almost July and end of June. It might be gone.
Hmm. There's a bunch of trucks out there. They must be picking up trees. This is nature's screen, or nature's TV.
Sure has a big screen.
It's a big screen TV. Morning entertainment. We're well hydrating in this weather. He doesn't want me to get his face in there.
This is straight
You
gin.
actually look good. Put it down.
I'm just kidding.
That's my hydration, and Stanley's got his hydration. And we're in the shadows. And let's see if I can do this. How's that?
Oh, something
For
bit.
keeping
Don't let
cool.
that thing bit me. Little
Ooh,
bugger.
he was big. I don't know what you call them, horsefly? My two favorite colors.
Our final setup. I actually have an extra tarp that I found was the exact width of the tent doors. So we were able to set that up and create a bit of extra shade for the tent to help keep it cool.
The perfect cheese for a heat wave. Brie cheese. Ideally, it's best to heat it up to enhance the flavors. Well, we have nature's heating. Nature's oven. We're in nature's oven, Stan. Stanley,
Yes.
what is it like camping in a heat wave?
Well, quite a few of the dynamics change. One is that instead of going down to the beach for a couple hours, it's almost unbearable at 40 degrees or so. Down at the beach is more or less, well, impossible. But there's a lot of other things you can do. For instance, be together. Sit under some trees, have a picnic table, and enjoy a drink together and just enjoy being together.
Fortunately, I had planned very quick, easy to grab meals like potato salad and cold cuts and tomato and things like that. We did not cook. We didn't do an open fire and cook hamburgers and things like that that you might traditionally do when you're camping. We just had cold meals. On our last day of camping, I had dislodged the tent from the vehicle. And there's a way to unzip or take off the sleeve so that we had then 4 walls of screen plus the ceiling vent screen. And that made it a lot more bearable for sleeping.